Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. This is Ben Kinney, and today I'm joined live with my friends Chad Himes and Bob Stewart. We're going to talk about self-leadership. Self-leadership is the commitment to being the best you possible. It's a desire to live the best possible life, to make the biggest possible impact, to help the most amount of people. But self-leadership is actually a commitment to a few things. Number one, it's a commitment to mastery, being and becoming a learning leader. Number two, it's a commitment to your management of energy, your own personal energy so that you have the stamina to continue. Number three, it's a commitment to improving your emotional intelligence. And number four, it's a commitment to focusing on what you can control. When you look at those four things, there's never been a more important model or system that I have created for my own personal life than what I call the daily plan. The daily plan is a way that I start and end my day, and I've done it for years and years. And I want to dive into this with my friends, Chad and Bob, and talk about how do you implement the daily plan model that I created. And as we dive into this subject, Chad and Bob, have you guys had times in your career when you felt more productive one day and you've had days in your career where you got done and you're like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did that day.
Days or weeks?
Yeah. And anybody who says no is a liar.
It happens, doesn't it?
All the time.
What do you think causes that?
Lack of focus,
Routine, commitment.
Other people getting you to work on their priorities instead of working on your own priorities. I mean, generally, it's just we're busy, right? Like
Busy
life,
and not productive.
Yeah. I mean, but life today is busy. You've got always have some reminder, some task, some text message coming in, some Facebook message. Like somebody's always asking for something. I mean, there's a million things anybody could be doing in their life, in their business at any given time. So it's probably just a lack of focus.
The thing I love about the daily plan that you have, Ben, is that it really can cover your health, wealth, leadership, and legacy. Because as you're going to walk us through putting these things together, we can make sure that those four pieces of our goals that we're all creating by listening to this podcast, we can make sure that they're all part of this daily plan.
Absolutely. What I love about what you said a minute ago, Bob, was we get stuck working on other people's priorities instead of our own, right? I have a thought that goes through my head often. It's every ship needs a captain. If the ship doesn't have a captain, who's going to drive it? If a ship has two captains, the ship is most likely going to go in a circle. Imagine if you're rowing one direction, I'm rowing the other direction. We're just going to spin in a circle, which a lot of companies do, a lot of people do, a lot of leaders do.
A lot of relationships do.
A lot of relationships. They don't get anywhere because they don't have a clear plan. Now, there's lots of books out there that talk about tactics. Like, maybe one of the more popular ones would be The Miracle Morning. I fight that because I hate mornings. Right? I'm the Miracle Night guy, but I understand his point, and it's a good message of starting your day off right. That isn't what I'm talking about today. Today is how do you make a plan for tomorrow that you can commit to, stick to, live by, and it be consistent, that's not so disciplined that it's impossible to follow. Okay. So we're going to walk through, my friends, what the daily plan is, and I really, really challenge our listeners to give it a try, just for a day.
So the daily plan starts before the day actually gets here, though.
It actually starts the night before.
Right.
And you can fail at anything you want right? I can screw up anything, but I cannot screw up investing 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the day to make sure that my next day is awesome.
So 5 or 10 minutes. That's all this is going to take for us to plan the night before to make the next day awesome.
I feel like this is an info commercial because what I'm promising you is in only 5 or 10 minutes every single day, you can change your life too. And I'll throw in a free set of steak knives.
If you subscribe now, you'll get 2 episodes.
Plus shipping and handling.
Yes, of course. All right. So Ben, you're talking about the night before. We're going to take a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes to plan out the next day.
Yep.
And that's something that we have to make the commitment to, because we can fail at lots of things, as you said, yet we can't fail at putting those 5 or 10 minutes on our calendar and at the end of every day saying, hey, this is tomorrow.
This is tomorrow. Yep.
Okay.
That's where we're going to start. So once you get good at it, you can do this in a notepad on your phone. Or if you become very good at it, you can do it in your head. I prefer to still sit down, you're not going to believe this, with a Sharpie and a blank piece of paper.
And folks, he actually has a Sharpie and a blank piece of paper in front of him right now while we're recording this.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
He's going to actually do this.
Yeah. This is what I do on a daily basis. So Step 1, visualize what you want to accomplish tomorrow. Stop for a second. Let's think about that. Not what are the list of tasks that you need to get done. Let's rephrase it. Visualize what you want to accomplish tomorrow, to me, wins. If we were to get together tomorrow night and we were to walk up to each other and we're going to say, hey, Bob, high five. I freaking killed it today. I knocked it out of the park. I killed it. What would that look like? What would winning look like for you tomorrow? If you moved some part of your life forward, your health, your wealth, your business, your career, our company forward, what would that look like? Not in a year or 3 months, tomorrow. What would that look like? What does winning look like to you?
And that's going to change daily.
Every day.
Right. Like tomorrow, it might be that I'm going to hit a certain number of push-ups for my health. Or tomorrow, it might be that I'm going to, celebrate something with my wife. Or tomorrow, it might be that I'm going to set a bunch of appointments or what. I mean, it's going to change daily, and there might be more than one thing each day.
Yeah. For me, sometimes it's been, if I can get one great interview tomorrow, I'll feel like I'm moving it forward. Because if I did that for a week or 2 weeks in a row, I'll probably find the person I'm looking for. Some days it might be if I could simply get my taxes done, if I could fill out my net worth tracker, if I could go through my P&L, if I could do that one thing that if I removed it from my plate, I would come home at the end of the day and I'd feel less stressed. I'd feel happier. This could also be tomorrow. If I could avoid my phone or avoid work for a full day and I could give 100% attention, right, to somebody that you cared about, that would be a win. Because this is the daily plan. This is not the workday plan. This could be, what would Sunday with Bob's 74 children look like for it to be a win, right? What would date night look like tomorrow night for, well, wow, 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 right? Well, what would that?
For somebody else.
What would winning look like tomorrow? And, I've thought about this over the years, and I asked this question before. I said, hey, if I took 2 people that I loved and I cared about and I respected, and they followed me to work tomorrow, and they sat behind me for the entire day, but they didn't say a word, they just took notes and watched me, would they be impressed or would they be depressed?
Sure.
We said that before, right?
Oh, yeah.
Would they be impressed or would they be depressed? Or would they say, gosh, he spends a whole lot of time on the Cabela's or the Facebooks, right? Or the YouTubers, right? Or, gosh, he works really, really hard. I can see, what that person accomplishes.
Okay, so we're going to ask our listeners right now, grab a piece of paper, grab a Sharpie. Unless you're listening while you're driving, don't do that. Yet, we want you to write down what would make tomorrow a win to you.
Not a task list, not a list of things that get done, but what would winning look like tomorrow? If you just did one thing.
Well, a lot of times it is one thing because there are 20 things I want to get done tomorrow. But if I got numbers, 2 through 20 done and I didn't get that one thing done, was that really a win?
Yeah. You have to say, if I got home tomorrow, what would make me feel less stressed, feel more productive, feel happier, feel healthier? whatever that might be. That's step one. And it's going to be one of your harder steps because it takes you some time to really close your eyes and think, what do I want to accomplish tomorrow? How am I going to know if I won or if I lost? And that's one of the biggest challenges in business is we go every day and we can't feel like we won or we lost. So it's not like we're building a house and at the end of a period of time, we get to look up and say, gosh, the house is built. We did it. We don't get that benefit all the time. That was one of my favorite things about being a cable guy is I'd go out there, I'd have a problem or I'd have an installation. I get to do it. When I was done, I would sit back for a second and say, I did that. I fixed that. It's done. It actually works, right? And now I get to go home. But a lot of times in business or in leadership, you don't get the benefit of that. So you have to slow down and ask yourself, what would that be tomorrow? If I was to sit back and say I won tomorrow, what would that be? So that's step one. Number two, see what your calendar has on it and cancel everything that is not important.
Ooh.
It's important that this is step two. You'll learn why as we go through the rest of the steps. Mm-hmm. But you have to make room in your day for your priorities, for winning, for yourself. And a lot of times your calendars are actually too full for you to do that. So you're physically going to pull up your calendar. You're going to look at the list of things you have on your schedule, and you're going to ask yourself, can I cancel that? Can I reschedule it? Can I cut the time in half? Or do I have to do it? The goal would be to remove 50% of all the appointments that are on your calendar.
Okay, now make sure you're careful doing this because sometimes someone's going to use this as an excuse to not do what they should do, which is hard, because they're going to say, well, today's win is about my health, so I'm going to take those work actions off that are hard. Or today's win is about time with the family, so I'm going to take these work actions off that are hard because they're going to think they can use it as an excuse not to do it. That's not what you're talking about here. You're talking about things that can be moved to later or we just put on our calendar to feel busy that don't need to be there because they're not going to bring us the results of that win.
Yep.
One of the things that you do, Ben, a lot of people want at your calendar. You protect your calendar, religiously by doing things like when somebody asks to meet with you, you immediately ask them why, or you ask them to send you a list of questions so you can be prepared for that meeting, or you'll give them homework sometimes. So you're already protecting your calendar. If they do that homework, they send you that list, they might make it on and still you might postpone or reschedule some of those meetings even.
I hate to give away my secrets to everybody in the world, but literally my assistant will call somebody and say, unfortunately, there's been an emergency that came up with Ben's calendar. We need to reschedule. And instead of saying,
Wait a minute.
Instead of saying, is Tuesday okay? She'll say, would it be okay if you reached out to us next week and proposed some more times that work for you? We know that 50% of the time they never reach back out. They didn't really need on the calendar. Those that do are important, and we'll try to move them through the cycle the next time. But you got to create time on your calendar. The only way to do it is to remove things. Remember that the secret to success is saying no more than saying yes.
Say that again, Ben.
The secret to success is saying no more than you're saying yes. Everything on your calendar is a yes.
To somebody else's priorities, right? I mean, most of the time.
That's right.
Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to sit down. We're going to visualize what we want to accomplish tomorrow, what would make tomorrow a win. Then we're pulling out our calendar. And audience, as you're listening to this, open up your calendar right now. There's probably something right there you can delete right now off your calendar that you have scheduled for tomorrow that does not need to be there.
Meet with Chad.
Ouch. Ouch, Bob. Ouch. No, all right. So we're going to have them take something off their calendar that's not important, that doesn't need to be there.
And the reason is because step 3,
which is
make a list of priorities, organize them in the order of what's most important. So let's talk about how I do it.
Yeah, that second part of that sentence is probably the biggest part of that sentence.
We all have task lists. My friend Jay, when he wrote the book, The One Thing, said you can't have to-do lists, task lists. You got to have priority lists. But they don't naturally come out of our brains in priority order. So I take that piece of paper, I make a list of all the things that I want to get done tomorrow. Fax this, sign that, pay that, do this, call this, whatever that might be, right? I'll brain dump. And since I wrote it down, then I'll go through there and I'll write, this is most important. And I ask myself the question, if I got that done, what is the next thing that I would do? Well, if I got the second thing done, what is the next thing that I would do? I'd write that one as 3. And I'll go through until I'm all the way done. Sometimes I look at that list and I'll say, there's no way I'm going to get more than number 2 done. I don't even put them on my list for tomorrow because it's impossible. I just cross them off. I know I got to delegate it. I got to tell people it's going to be delayed. It's not going to get done, or I have to postpone it. Priority list allows you to figure out what's the most important tomorrow. Now, since you just did this, then you get to look up and say, do I actually have time for it tomorrow? Does this actually add up to me winning tomorrow? Because you could say, winning would be if I hired a replacement for Chad.
What's picking on me today?
But if I don't make time on my calendar for it, that's not going to happen. If all my priorities are talk to Bob, do this, record this, make this, do this, and I'm not putting any of my time towards what would allow me to win tomorrow, I'm never going to. So your priorities have to match up with your calendar, because you got to have time for them, and they have to match up with what would winning tomorrow look like.
Okay, so this is like what Bob even said earlier in this episode. Bob was saying, look, if I have 20 things on here and I do number 2 through number 20 because they're easier and don't end up doing number 1, it's not a win. So what you're saying is we're brain dumping out all of the to-dos. I mean, all the way down to putting gas in the car, all the way down to get to the grocery store, all that stuff, and then putting it in order of priority as to what's going to help us achieve the win.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're probably going to narrow it down to your 20%. You're going to brain dump the 20% of things that you need to get done tomorrow. That's going to give you 80% of your results.
There you go.
And you might leave some of the smaller things off, but what's most important? You're making your important priority list for tomorrow.
Okay. So audience, you have visualized tomorrow. You've already cleared some things off your calendar while we've been talking, hopefully. Now what you've done is you've started to write down that list of things you could do. You're just brain dumping. When we're done at the end, we want you to go back, prioritize this, make sure they're fitting on your calendar as part of step 3.
Yep. Number 4.
Okay.
Plan what I call my rituals. Now, I'm not talking about killing a chicken, right? I'm talking about, it could be a priority. What I'm talking about are what are the things that I have to implement into my life so that I have the energy, the stamina, the emotional control, the mental capacity, the spiritual capacity to be successful for the entire day. I call those, my rituals. These are 10 to 15 minute items that happen 4 or 5 times a day. That's exercise, hydration, eating, reading for a while, listening to something like a podcast, preferably the Win, Make, Give podcast.
Yeah, I've got a good one for you.
Thank you. Snacks. Could be praying, meditating. We could write a freaking novel we learned in one of our other episodes, right? 10 minutes a day. But how do you go an hour and a half to 2 hours and then add a ritual in there? Now, because you're doing that, you have to plan for it. So let's say that our plan was to eat something every 2 hours. If you didn't bring anything to work, that's not going to happen. You're going to end up skipping it and come home hangry and take it out on us, right?
Yep.
Or you're going to make bad life choices and you're going to grab the snack box, right? You're going to raid the snack box.
What are you looking at me for?
Bob Stewart, like the little snack fairy, right? It's not going to happen.
I planned these snacks. I planned these cookies.
So you're going to take a few minutes and you're just going to say, all right, what am I going to eat tomorrow? What's for lunch? And what are my snacks? And if you're working from an office, are you going to bring it? Where are you going to have it? Number 2, what am I going to hydrate tomorrow? What is my goal for hydrating? How much am I going to drink tomorrow?
Half your body weight in ounces. That's your goal every day, Ben.
That is a lot of water. What am I going to read tomorrow? Or what am I going to listen to? Especially if you're doing that throughout the day, you got to have that ready. Otherwise, you're going to spend time scrolling, right? What is my mental break going to be? Am I going to pray, journal, hydrate, things like that? Those are your rituals. That's step 4.
And we're doing these when needed throughout the day.
Every 90 minutes to 2 hours.
We're taking a break every 90 minutes to 2 hours to do something for a few minutes.
Eat, exercise, hydrate, read, listen, pray, break, something that refuels us our energy.
And audience, I would like you to notice as Ben went through that list and the list he just did before, he skipped exercise when he was writing down the things to do. So let's make sure we stay on him.
Chad, I'll step in his defense here we have an accountability group where we exercise as a group and we record ourselves and we post the videos, and he does it at the same time every evening. Like his videos come on into that group at the same time every evening. And so clearly he's made that, even though he's forgetting it here, he's made that a ritual that has a certain time in the day that he actually does it. So
take that, sucker.
We'll talk about exercise later and what's really exercising, Ben. But keep going through our list now that we've visualized.
Step 5, Chad.
Yep. All right.
Create a time block and even set alarms on your phone for your rituals and your priorities. Because you already looked at your calendar. You might have 2 or 3 appointments you can't get about. You got that horrible Zoom call you got to do with your boss, right?
Yep.
You got that one meeting, and you got to spend time on the TPS report. So you have an extra 6 hours for the day tomorrow that you're going to have available to work. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, all right, I'm going to make time for my priorities. First priority, I'm going to get done first, right? We always eat the frog first. Yep. First in the morning, right? 9 to 11, you're going to work on the biggest thing that would move your company forward.
Okay.
You're going to block in there your 10 or 15 minutes for that break, which means if you know you have another conference call at 11, you better end your priority session at 10:45 so you have 15 minutes for your rituals to get your energy up. You're going to create your schedule for the whole day and set alarms. And I like to set alarms because, well, it just helps me. Things like, hey, dummy, drink another 24 ounces, right? Eat something. Take a break. Literally, you could set alarms in your phone that says, take a walk, stupid, right? Take a break, time to read something, time for a snack, right? And just remind yourself so that you have the stamina and you have your priorities in your calendar. If you get to this step and you look at your calendar and you say, I don't have time for any of these things, you're going to have to decide, are the appointments on your calendar more important than your priorities? Right? Is your health and your energy and how you show up important or not important? I would rather have 2/3 the amount of work, but show up at 150% for those 2/3 than have a whole bunch of things and have no energy and no drive and really not at my peak performance. Okay, number 6. This is the last step. I make a mental commitment, and I even say it out loud when I'm done. I say, I'm going to stick to this tomorrow. This is my plan for tomorrow. I am committing to these priorities. I'm committing to this schedule. I'm committing to this plan, and I'm going to stick to it for one day.
That's it. Just one day.
David Goggins, when we interviewed him, he told a story about being 80 pounds overweight in order to get into the Navy. And on his mirror, he put a weight goal up there. He didn't put 80 pounds. He put 1 pound. Because he knew if he didn't lose 1 pound, he would never lose 80. I know that some days are not going to work out. Some days are chaotic. Some days you have family in town. Some days you're not feeling well. But I do know that I can stick to things for one day. So tomorrow, make a commitment that for one day, you're going to stick to your daily plan for just one day.
All right, so let me go through these 6 steps for everybody again. First, visualize. Second, see what you can cancel on your calendar. Third, make that list of priorities and put them in the order of priority. 4, plan those rituals, the exercise, the hydrating, the reading, the snacks, etc. 5, create that time block and set alarms as needed. This is like the only time I think I hear Ben's phone actually make noise. Doesn't make noise when someone comments on Facebook or texts or anything like that. Doesn't disrupt them. These alarms will step out and get him into the next section. And then we make that mental commitment, and you'll even tell us, say it out loud, that we are committing to this plan for just one day and plan to start that in the morning.
Tell it to yourself. Tell it to an accountability partner. text it to somebody. I don't care. Put it on Facebook. Do whatever you have to do to tell people, especially yourself, that you're going to commit to something. Now, the next step, you're going to sleep good because you know tomorrow you have a plan. Our worst days, our frazzled days come from us not having a plan. The day becomes out of our control. We get home. We don't know what happened. We don't know where the day went, and we don't know what we did. So when you wake up the next morning, for just a minute, you grab that piece of paper, could be in a notebook, could be on the notes of your phone, could be on the Sharpie and the blank piece of paper on your nightstand. Just for a second, wake up, review 1 through 6. And when you get home, your first day after doing this, I want you to ask yourself a question. Was today better than the average of all my other days? If it was, do it for another day. Commit to one more day, Chad. If it's good another day, do it. If you fall off track, I want you to ask yourself, were my days better when I was following the plan? And if so, recommit to it. How many days does it take to create a habit?
66 days.
That's what they said in the research from the One Thing book, right? 66 days. Try this for a day. If you feel better, if you feel more productive, do it again for a day. If you feel like you need a partner, get your organization into this. Get your company, get your boss, get other people. Put these plans into place. This is like something that would go great if you added it to the 15-point plan that we talked about in our energy podcast. These are great things to add together, something you would do all the way. At the end of that night, you come home, just reflect on how the day went, what went well, what didn't. Be prepared to make changes. You might realize that you're not giving yourself enough time to do things. What you'll notice if you guys were to look at my calendar, less than 50% of my days are blocked. Less than 50% of my days have anything on my calendar because I have to have room for things that come up. I have to have room for my own priorities. I have to have room for myself. I have to have room for the organization. So I create that room by not allowing everybody else to control 100% of my calendar. Set a goal. What percentage of your calendar are you going to allow to be blocked by other people's priorities? If you do this, you do the daily plan, I promise you, or your money back, that you're going to be happier, healthier, and more productive.
All right. It's a money back guarantee from Ben Kinney, Bob.
Yeah, give me my money. Oh, wait.
Well, why don't you put the plan in place first, and
Okay,
we'll see if it works for you.
Tonight.
We're going to challenge each of you to put your plan into place. Make that mental commitment. You will sleep better. We hope one of those rituals is take some time and listen to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Don't forget, join us on Facebook.com/groups/WinMakeGive. Don't forget to also share this episode with others and send them to winmakegive.com, or they can find it wherever they subscribe to their podcast. Until our next episode, make sure you wash those hands, and as always, do good.